Hey guys, this is Red and Blue, the channel for usually all things PSG. But today, let's not kid ourselves. The big ticket item in football world of the weekend is El Clásico, the Real Madrid versus FC Barcelona game that's going to be played tomorrow, Sunday night in Madrid, the first Clásico of the season. And, always the number one game with the Champions League finals that really gets the attention of everyone in the world and all footballing fans. Look at this one. And honestly, as far as El Clasico go, it's actually a pretty interesting and exciting one, and there's quite a few things to talk about. And so that's why I'm kind of breaking my usual PSG first format. I hope you guys won't mind me not talking too much about PSG Brest. I'll do the post-game analysis for sure. But right now, I wanted to do a little preview of this El Clasico, since I assume most of us are going to be watching this as well, and just so you're up to speed on what's been going on with the two clubs and how this game might unfold. I think the first one is that on the Real Madrid side, we've got a team that's still a work in progress. I don't need to tell you, they have a new coach in the beginning of the season, Xabi Alonso. He's been doing some work in trying to make Real Madrid into more of a cohesive unit versus just a collection of individuals. Overall, I would say we do see some positive movement and some positive changes, but at the same time, it's still very much a work in progress. And I think the big question mark that we have with this Real Madrid team is that for all of the progress that they've made, the two times this season and under Xabi Alonso where they faced a big team was against PSG, where they lost 4-0 in the Club World Cup, and then against Atletico Madrid in Atleti, where they lost, where was it, 5-2, 5-3, or they still got pretty well dominated. And so right now they have the lead and they sit at the top of the table when it comes to La Liga. They've had 3 wins in 3 games in the Champions League, but there's still this lingering question mark of, how advanced are they in this new project and in working together a bit better. And when it comes to the player, there's still question marks around Vinicius, and how can he play with Mbappe, and does he have the right attitude going on the pitch? There's still question mark around Jude Bellingham, even if he scored, I think last weekend. How can he best contribute in midfield and with less spotlight than he had in his first season with Madrid? And then on the right side of the offense as well, Arda Güler versus Mastantuono, 2 rising stars in world football. Both of them have contributed and I think turned in some really pretty amazing performances. But there's still question marks in terms of who should start and what they're going to do. And then the big one really, even beyond that, is that if you think of their defensive strengths, there's still question marks there. And they're still, they've been plagued with injury as well, which hasn't helped them institute a really strong back four and cohesive back four. There's question mark around their fullbacks, Carreras and then Trent Alexander-Arnold. Alexander-Arnold has been injured. Carreras is played, but hasn't played this well all the time. Then in central defense, Oyshen has made a great early impact in his career, but then I think also went off on injury. So there's still a lot of moving pieces, and I don't think the puzzle has completely clicked in a lot of places. And the reality of La Liga is that, for all of the flags that people throw at Liga, the reality of La Liga is that when you take out Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, there's obviously a few good teams like Valencia, Villarreal, or even Bilbao or Real Sociedad. There's always a few teams that kind of get in the mix, but very quickly you end up with the Levantes of it all, which aren't very big challenges for a team like Real Madrid, even not a Real Madrid at 100%. And so in that context, there's still doubts around like whether this team, in its current shape and form, can really sustain a big match versus a big opponent, kind of top tier Champions League fixtures, and so we'll have to see. They do go into this game, I think with interestingly like a few more certainties than where Barcelona is at, which is kind of surprising in a way. They're also at home, which always helps, even if like the Spanish stadiums aren't like the most animated ones in Europe. But yeah, it should be an interesting one. They've got basically all of their players back from injury. I think the only one who's still missing is I think even Carvajal is back. I think they still have one missing, but yeah, I think Alaba is still missing. But otherwise, like even if players are coming back from injury, supposedly all of them are available for these fixtures, and so it should be really interesting. And for them, it's a golden opportunity as well because, like I said, they sit on top of La Liga. They are 2 points ahead of Barcelona, and so if they win, they're already 5 points ahead. Which end October, early November. Obviously, there's still a lot of the season left to play. But an early lead of 5 points in La Liga, it's starting to be quite something. And so it could very well be a turning point in the season in a way, or at least like really create a long-term challenge for Barcelona, and really present them with question marks that they'll have to solve throughout the season. And so going into Barcelona, actually, like quite a few question marks. And it's funny because we're in the second year of Hansi Flick's tenure as Barcelona coach. And I think last season, for the first season, they really impressed Europe. They won La Liga. They went to the semi-final of the Champions League. Producing some really interesting football and great football. They won all of the Clásicos last season as well. So it really did feel like this team was already year one in a really good place, and so year two could turn into something very, very spectacular. And I'll grant you, once again, we're early in the season, but so far, like they've been plagued with injuries, but also like they've been exposed quite a few times in terms of how they play and how to counteract that. And I think PSG is a great example of it, of really like managing to turn them inside out and effectively counteract their play. And in particular, like, the big question has been around the high line in defense and how they play defense, whether they're midfield, Pedri de Jong, it's a great pair, but is it strong enough to withstand team who have more players in the midfield? And so, if we think of Real Madrid, and they might very well be playing this game with Tchouaméni, Bellingham, and Camavinga. That's three like really strong midfielder to take care of that double pivot. And so there's a big question mark there. And then in offense, and I think throughout the team, like quite candidly, like they've had a lot of injuries as well. And so like same as Real Madrid in a way, it's really like prevented them from really making things click, and it's really taking them a lot longer to find their pace because players are rotating in and out and because there's lots of changes. And I think for this game in particular, they do have quite a few injured. They've got their goalkeeper, Joan Garcia, who's like long-term injury. And then like they've got Lewandowski sitting out. And even if he doesn't play every game, he's still a big asset for this team. Dani Olmo, their substitute number 10, is also out. Lamine Yamal is going to be available, but he's been in and out of injuries. And the big question mark that we have is that apparently like there's been some kind of virus making its way through the Barcelona squad this week. And so De Jong is very uncertain for this game because he's missed a couple of trainings. And the last that we hear is that Koundé as well could be missing out. And Koundé is really like, played a lot of game as right back. And so it's creating a lot of uncertainty for the team as it is. And so for them, going into Madrid, going into there already 2 points down in the table, and going into it with, big pressure on their shoulder to turn in a result in, what is the clash of the season in a way. Yeah, it's not like a triumphant march into Madrid, to say the least. And there's definitely question marks in terms of how they're going to play, like what team is going to turn up, and ultimately like how they can manage the strengths of this Real Madrid team. And I think ultimately for me, what I think is that both teams tactically, I think, are starting to be in fairly strong places. Barcelona has been there for longer, but it's kind of going back a little bit. Madrid is on the ascendancy, but really like not anywhere close to a finished product. And so at the end of days, and especially in a game like this, there's a lot that rides on the individualities of it all. And I think, both Yamal and Mbappe, one on each side, have been like completely dominant and outsized in terms of their impact and their stature within their own team. And we've seen it this week with Yamal giving in some rough quotes in the media, saying that Real Madrid cheat and buy their games, which created a big controversy. Mbappe has been more quiet, but we know that for him, the pressure is on to convert his stats into really like winning big games, which is something he struggled to do with this Real Madrid team since he joined. And so for both of them, this game is massively important in terms of their season. Yamal needs to continue living up to the hype that people build around him and that he contributes to himself and the pressure that he puts on his shoulder. While at the same time, like Mbappe has had a phenomenal start of the season, pains me to say, but like phenomenal start of the season. But now it's not enough to turn in individual performances. He needs to carry the team with him and, be part and be the lead in a winning team. And so for this game, both of them are going to have opportunities as well, because you think of Yamal on the right side of the Barcelona offense, playing one-on-one versus Carreras, who's really not the strongest part of the Madrid team by any means, and with Vinicius Jr. behind him, who like we know Vinicius, like if he gets taken out of his game, like I mean, first like he doesn't really contribute that much defensively, but like if he gets taken out of his game, he can get in his head and just turn in a horrific performance pretty easily, like we've seen this season. And so Yamal could very well end up like bossing that area of the pitch very easily. Versus Mbappe for him. Yeah, I mean, like if Barcelona ends up playing a high line again, for a player who's found his physicality and his pace again, yeah, like I think already last season he scored a few goals in El Clásico, but now like it feels that he's one or two steps above the levels that he was at last season, and so it could really turn into quite something for him. So yeah, at the end of days, like big game. I wanted to share as well, like what I think are going to be starting 11s. So I start with the visiting side of Barcelona. We're looking probably at Chesney, Balde, Kubarski, Araujo in central defense, Eric Garcia on the right, assuming Koundé is out, Pedri. De Jong might be able to play. There's still question mark if they don't. Like they do have options in terms of defensive midfielders, and then up front, Lamine Yamal, Fermin Lopez at the number 10, Rashford on the left, who's also like it's a big game for him, and Ferran Torres up front. And then for Real Madrid, we're looking at Courtois in goal, back four of Carreras, Militao, Oysen, Valverde on the right. And then Camavinga, Tchouaméni, Bellingham in midfield, and a front line of Vini, Mbappe, Güler. So two very strong teams, two very exciting ones. And yeah, in terms of expectations, actually interesting because I think even with everything that's going on, I see a lot of people, even like neutral analysts and so on, tend to favor the Barcelona side a little bit, just because we know that they're more evolved and refined, having worked with Hansi Flick for close to a year and a half now, and more confident in their football. I think it's interesting. I do tend to agree, honestly. I think like this Real Madrid team, I think they're getting better, but they still have a long way ahead of them. And I think like defensively, it's very, very shaky. And even with a few people missing out, like Barcelona does have a strong line. They do have like a player like Pedri who can really bust the midfield and give the passes. I think it should be relatively close, though. I would expect like 2-1 or a 3-2 or something. Even a draw is not out of the question. But yeah, I don't see this Real Madrid team, like for all of the individual talents that they have and the progress that they've made, I don't see them being able to just like beat a team like Barcelona. Simply put, it's a clash of very big teams, but I think Barcelona is one step ahead. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a very interesting game anyway. Played this Sunday night, so I'll come back to you guys on Monday, and I'll do a post-match analysis on this one. And yeah, for us as PSG fan, it's funny because like it's a little bit of hate watch, I guess, between like Barcelona, who we don't like, Real Madrid with Mbappe that we don't like. So there's really like, if both teams could lose, I think it'd be perfect for us on this one. I'll take a draw with some injuries, please. But in any case, let me know in the comment what you think of the game. Are you going to be watching it? What's your expectation? What's your prediction for it? And if you've made it this far, please drop a like on this video. Please subscribe to the channel for more great football content with a lot of PSG, but also other things. And don't forget, like even in Spain, in Madrid, ici c'est Paris!